Actually, you can't go a whole stream without saying his name if you're a traditional Brit, because you end up saying Core Blimey. So there you go. There's another one. Because we've got Core versus Pewt. This is a fairly high-level game, guys. Like, you know, buckle yourselves in. All right, buff your ass into that seat until it shines, because we've got a long in here. Been assured of one absolute banger of a Dry Arabia between these two, and this is a high-level game. Core, of course, bouncing back and forth between like 50 rank and 25 rank, more than a tennis ball in a rally in Wimbledon. But right now, sitting in 41st place, playing in the red as the Roos. Seems kind of fitting as well, actually. I'd say, like, if there's any Civ I see Core play a lot, it's this. This and HRE have to be his most played Civ by far. But regularly when it comes to Dry Arabia, Core will choose to go for the Roos. Has had some interesting strategies. We've seen him win some. We've seen some maybe embarrassing losses against Food Starved, HRE, Castle Age. No, I won't peel that one up. All right, we'll focus on this one, because on the other side, his opponent in this one, Pewt, is doing pretty damn well. Pewt, if you're unfamiliar with them, I do not know who this is. I know it's a Smurf. It has to be a Smurf. You know how I know it's a Smurf? Because I'm Gargamel. And I just opened the pot and... it smells like Smurf. 138 games played, ranked 27th. 55.1% win rate. Although, in fairness, there is another possibility. I'm going to provide you that possibility, just in case that I've accidentally got some human in my Smurf. The people they've been up against, some of them are a little bit sus. You know, a lot of these names aren't familiar with the top. Nah, okay, I'm not going to do the chemo treatment. No, Pewt, I know it's a Smurf. I can't tell you who. But, because they made me promise. They said if I didn't keep it secret, they would come to my house and turn me into a Smurf soup. And I got a kid to think about, guys. So I've got to keep that close to my chest. But, you know, in fairness, you could believe this is a Kimmo type person when they come into Dry Arabia and whip out the English. But they're not. No, they're someone else. In fact, this English player, we've watched them before. I believe we watched them against Lenok, and in that game, they didn't really look like someone looking for easy crews and wins. No, instead they were someone that, like, something else that you can stick in a giant cooking pot and eat. At least if you got ripped off by oldies, that is, because they enjoyed the Horsemen. I'll have to see if we get that build again out of them. And by the way, that's another thing that makes me think that they are, like, definitely a Smurf, is, like, they've been taking conscious note of some other players' builds and are clearly adjusting them. So we'll have to see if they go towards that Horseman build. It would be very good in this game because Core doesn't have a clear answer. Like, the Roos don't tend to build into the Pokey Boys, you know, the Spearmen. Usually they're looking towards the not Horse Archers later on, obviously, but Archers normally, or going into Knights as well alongside that in the early game. And even if you go into Knights, Horsemen are a pretty good solution. If you bulk enough of them up, you're able to stab through them slowly. And remember, it's not like French Knights where if you peel back and you don't kill them in one foul swoop, they'll heal up. No, that damage is perma until a Roos player gets all the way up to Castle Age. Right now, I'm wondering if Core wants to go all the way out onto the boar, because this boar is someone else that could go in my pot of ingredients. Very nicely positioned here next to two wood lines in the center of the map towards your opponent's base. Can be a little bit risky up against the English, but what I love is Core. He's potentially setting himself up for this maneuver with the scout movement. He'll move in position, he'll keep eyeballs on the opponent's base, and he'll see an Abbey of Kings. And this should encourage him. He could just go for it right now. Ball pull would make a hell of a lot of sense, and he's got about 20 seconds to go for the most optimal timing here. Wheelbarrow already taken. An Abbey of Kings build. Now, so the player that I was referencing that quite likes the Horseman, the most obvious one was going to be Mr. as someone who's inspired this person. And the funny thing is, Mr., when he does this Horseman build, he usually goes with a Council anyway just to play it safe. But this player is doing something very different. Going for Abbey of Kings, insulating themselves for a much later timing. Could play into Knights. And then when you do that Knight trade we were talking about, you know, there are some upgrades to the Roos to consider, but you have to worry about the attack speed or if the English. On top of that, them now having a way of healing up units when they're defending. Speaking of defending, this cheeky move by Pewt, he whipped out the villagers. Because remember, this is something you can do as the English. Short bows. And those short bows could block the ball, but they need to go now, and that's where they're heading off to. trying to snipe down the scouts so he could get the good trades. And wow, he's actually baiting Core right now. Core can't go for the ball. So instead, he's going to switch over because, folks, this isn't the end of the move. Sure, he can't get Pumbaa, but he could easily go for Pumbaa's little bro Pimba. But instead, he sees the pullback and he will renew the assault upon Boar. I'm kind of surprised, actually, here. I wonder if Pute believed that his opponent walked away entirely. You've got to suspect they didn't, though. I'm a little bit shocked at that pullback, and yeah, Pute's now going to get the bad news, and this is all because the scout couldn't stay in the area. That cheeky wraparound, you cheeky git Core. Absolutely phenomenal. I just, like, credit where credit is due. That was crafty, that little switcheroo. Being able to get away with that because your opponent didn't keep the scouting vision on you, it's a mistake by Pute, but great capitalization by Core. Round of applause for that move. A very big whoopsie-daisy. I'm a little bit surprised that Pute didn't stay on that. Considering that this is a high-level player, remember, Pute is ranked 27th. They're no pushover. And like I told you, they are a high-level player, Smurf. So this isn't just like, this isn't your Tom, Dick, or Harry you never heard of before. Now, this person knows what they're doing. So very surprised by that. But I think that just shows credit over to Core. Like how good he is at manipulating vision in these situations. And now denying it outright is Pute. Will end up losing the last scout they had. So now they're playing blind Age of Empires 4. And now, I know you guys have seen some amazing blind performances watching stuff like, you know, Star Wars Rogue One. But most people, when they're playing blind, they're not able to sense the movements of their opponents. They're not able to insta-react like they are embodied by the Force. No, instead, they will find themselves restricted, blocked out, and very much surprised. And this will be a surprise for Pute, because Core is looking to block the gold with a wooden fortress and block Pute out of being able to reach up in the castle and get that night push going. And this is so well played by Core. He knows his opponent wants to reach Castle Age. He already saw the Abbey of Kings. I don't know if you guys have noted this yet, but you don't tend to build Abbey of Kings for a prolonged feudal. At least, maybe in one or two people's games, maybe in my game every once in a while, you know, maybe I can get away with that. But a high-level play, top 100, you do not build Abbey of Kings if you're staying in feudal. And that's why Core is going for this play. And he might not be quick enough to stop the gold gathered required to get up to castle, but he can block it afterwards and thus block the night push, which could still be a very big deal here, especially considering the secondary gold lines to the south side, they're also blockable because they're so far away from your base. He's even going to wall up this side to make sure there's no flanking maneuver. Another cool element of this is keep in mind that Core is going to be slower to reach Castle Age, but right now he's condensing points. So he's blocking this route out the back. He's blocked off at the gold. The knock-on effect of this is now if Pute techs up and goes for relics, they can't easily access the northern side ones. This is important for Core because it means he can go for a delayed Abbey of Trinity and still get absurd value via relic grabbing because he's got 2 outside his base and now 2 that he dictates access to on the northern side. There it is. Villager gets butchered, has to back away. Pute will play onto the south side. This could be a brilliant place for the King's Pass, but instead they're going to play very condensed next to where the farm's going to be set up. Not risk having it out in the middle of no man's land for good reason as well. You have to remember at the end of the day, like these King's Palaces, they're not exactly tanky. 2400 HP, they could easily get burnt down. It's not your 5k health landmark. Speaking of getting burnt down, counter Wooden Fortress gets intercepted, but the torch damage being done means that this constructed tower is not going to be worthwhile for Pute. One horseman shouldn't be enough to push the scouts away. Nice build up there. Well, Pute wasn't looking, he'll have to pull back. Beautiful move there by Core to complete the structure when his opponent looked away. Did lose a few villagers here, but overall this is still within the schemes that Core is looking towards. Like, this is still within the acceptable range of losses for the build up, especially with what comes next. Abbey of Trinity being rushed, triple archery range behind it for the horse archers. Why do you build horse archers against English? Is Core drunk? Drunk on power. Because he has the power here. Look at his opponent. This isn't English longbows. This isn't your typical English. He has no way of building longbows right now, and thus no way of threatening the horse archers. Secondary stable coming out, because remember, Pute did get access to the southern gold, so isn't completely denied out. But the villager might change that soon, because look at this Core. He snuck around the backside. He left himself entrances, and a prison cell remains at the back here for Pute. And now he'll sneak in again and do the exact same thing to Pew. Pew will at least have surplus gold to get a few knights out, but there's a bigger problem on the horizon now. Core is Castle Age. Did somebody say Spring emplacements? Not yet, but they will in a second. And those Spring emplacements will block out both of the Southern Golds, at which stage Pew's only option will be to play out into the dangerous midfield where you'll be picked apart by the Pew ponies. And your Pew ponies will not be a match for that. Even going into the Knights won't solve the problem because, remember, with enough Horse Archers, you can just kite and kill, kite and kill. And here we go. Core, he bought the stone. He's going to do it. There it is, both as well. Because remember, you can get both with the Wooden Fortresses, and also by getting both, you increase the range of the Spring Wooden placement because of Arrow Slit's increasing range. You crafty git. Meanwhile, Northside 1. Whoops. Whoops. Core. If I click and okay, I'll forgive you for the sec. But that is a problem because if this one gets torched down, Pew can just return to the north side. So he does want to get the Spring Wooden placement ASAP. The good news for him right now is that Pew doesn't have many knights to quick torch this. And there's the bad news. Pew, he realizes what just happened. The defensive outpost isn't going to do anything for him. Just has to back away. And it might be a villager pull to torch this down quicker before a Spring Wooden placement happens on the north side as well. So far, I'd say this is the big mistake for Core. The fact that he didn't actually have extra service supplies to get into both Springwoods is a mistake. But Horse Archers will at least make up for it. Moving in range, Scout's going to tank the damage. One Knight brought low, will be finished off. The Garrison straight away will pepper with arrows and force away the Horseman. Nice play there. As soon as I say Core made a mistake, he's like, oh, hold my beer, KP, I'm going to fix it. I've got to give it to him. Like, that was a crafty, quick maneuver. Not your critical mass of Horse Archers yet, but because you have static defenses, now your opponent has no way of diving. Now, good news for Pew, you can at least get NHS. Makes sense, you are English after all. And in fairness, the NHS will allow him to be quite efficient with his knights, but he has to make sure that he doesn't get ambushed by critical mass of units from Core. The best play for Pew might be to consider going into something like maybe Mangonels, setting up Siege, to try and deal with the Horse Archers when they come out, to make sure that not only do your knights stay alive when you go back to heal them every time, but also all of Core's units die. Here we go, Core march to the south side because the torches are out. Spring Wooden placement starting to snipe down units, build up on the gold line, spots it out, pushes the villagers back. No commit. 1-2 Horsemen isn't going to be enough to scare them here as they'll pepper them down with the arrows. Doesn't feel like they're that tanky, does it? 2 range resistance against 12 damage. Yeah, you really do counter this unit. It really feels like you're meant to deal with them. Can you detect the sarcasm maybe? Slightly. Now the Knight. Uh-oh. That's going to be sniped. This is a really good trade for Core. He's delaying Pew's economy. Pew isn't getting gold right now and also is losing a lot of troops. Knights are also going to be targeted out. Horse Archers can stand their ground. And now the villager pull. The all-in Core. If he jumps in the tower, he does more damage here. He's actually sacrificing the troops instead, though. Spring will be able to snipe a few more of the Knights down, but looks like the Wooden Fortress will fall in the end. Garrison's inside to try and min-max his fire before he loses it. But Textiles makes it a little bit difficult to do so. The Spring shot won't be enough to kill off the villagers. Horse Archers will come out to the death. And it looks like Pew has recovered, but my god, did Core work hard to make his opponent work harder. He put some sweat on here. Pew, 47 eco, but Core at 44, despite the fact it's 2 TCs versus 1. And off the back of that, off the back of all that pressure, look at what Core done. He yoinked every risky relic on the map, which means he now has the scalability. And Pew, although he recovers the gold, is far from out of the woods yet. Speaking of the woods, he'll right in this tiny woods and find the one little villager that caused all the problems. Actually, cool heads-up play there by Pew, because otherwise you're inviting another Wooden Fortress on the backup gold. Because even with your vision, like, you could sneak one right here, and the English wouldn't know. But Pew had a sense, like, there's no way. I never saw a villager leave. I had an outpost up. They must be around here somewhere. Now also prepping the archery ranges, because remember what we said earlier, because you didn't go for the council hall, you don't have Lombos. That's why Core made that play. Usually in an English Roost matchup, Horse Archers are pretty terrible because Longbowmen spam you down, especially with the increased attack speed when they play defensive. And they're clearly increased range, right? Because you're a baby level 4.5. And that's why he went for it. But now that Pute has access to the archery ranges, here's an interesting point. He goes for crossbows. And the reason he goes for crossbows is Pute is playing a blind game still. For all Pute knows, there's more than just Pew Pew ponies behind this. There could be knights as well. And so far, that is not the truth, but I am fine with this play. Realistically, like, crossbow will trade out reasonably well with the attack speed increase. They have better tile range anyway. And this now blocks from what comes next. But if he could see Core's base right now, I do believe Pute would have went Lombos. Core. He stuck another villager in. This might eventually be useful because, remember, Pute's playing the Easternwood line, but we'll eventually have to come back for this. They do have small reserves, but it's not infinite. Speaking of infinite, these horse archers, for some reason, have infinite arrows to fire. Although they won't be able to use them in this area, not diving past the outposts, so instead we'll back up for the moment. Nice walling from Pute to ensure they have that padding to survive the early game aggression, but now Core's looking more towards the late game as he's going to get the secondary TC, the build as standardized to the Rus. Especially once you get 5 relics. No reason not to do this. Buys into the stone without even needing to go onto the outcropping. We now have quick access to that secondary TC that will allow them to keep up the scalability of Pute's economy. They're basically neck and neck. Remember that each of these relics is worth 2.5 villages, and if you look at the differential, Pute's 63, Core at 51, so they are truly neck and neck right now. I know someone's going to raise the point around the English farms, but then you could raise the counterpoint around the Wooden Influence and the Golden Gate to even things up. Like they're in good stead, is the point. And the difference is that actually right now, Core has a more threatening army. Pute is stockpiling to a point where it will be his turn. But even then, these horsemen, the gap close can kill a lot of them off. Like you can see, Veteran Horseman, only 2 missile resistance, up against a 13 damage unit that can go up to 14 with just 1 poke from this Warrior Monk. The issue for Core is when you build this army, it's not just about harassing military and winning these trades with horsemen. It's about killing villages. It's a raiding force. He can't raid right now. He could if he went around the backside, but looks like Pute beat him to the punchline. There is a way around, though, because if Core has 1 villager on the front line, if he just makes a chop happen here, he can be straight into the back lines. Right into the farmlands on the backside that are unguarded for Pute. And that could be a massacre. For now, Core says, why would I come out? Or why would I go in when you have to come out? Because he can get all 3 sacred sites here. Wait, Core. Core, no. Oh, why do you do this to yourself? Okay, there we go. Whoops. That would have been a sacred site cap. At least he'll remember. Could have been worse. Decap on the northern side that he's trying to patrol and respond to. Horsemen do move out, torch down that wooden fortress in the end. Gold is re-accessible by Pute. Pute's goal here is to now reach Imperial. To do so, you need to make sure that your opponent doesn't get all 3 sacred sites, because that turns the screws. That puts too much pressure on you. But right now, it's very hard to contest directly. A nice interception coming out as Core. We'll even bait the 1 veteran horseman away as the rest are retreating. Core starting to fight. Lombo transition finally there. Pute has realized it. This is what we were highlighting. If you know your opponent is only pushing horse archers, you push Lombos. And now with the Lombos, Core has to be scared. Especially the way he's being pursued here. Pute moving in, and Core yet to make a transition. Will be forced to do so in the coming minute. Otherwise, you are heavily discounted. Stands his ground around this area. Wooden Fortress in the center could help if he shifts to the south side. But the Horsemen are blitzing through him here. The Lombo trading on the backside as well. Core is not getting a good trade. He is getting absolutely run out of town. Yes, the Horsemen fall, but they get their value. They do what they need to. They guard the Longbowman long enough that all of a sudden Core is going to lose control of the north side, and the win condition is going to be removed from the table as Pute strikes down this northern sacred side. Scouts marching in. Lombos are just going to step back for the moment, being distracted, choosing to engage there instead of getting rid of the horse archer. An interesting choice. We'll start to redirect his fire now. More horsemen arriving, and that's going to be an army wipe. Core. He needs to go back to the drawing board because this just does not work, and you're seeing what I meant. Lombos counter horse archers. It's not even close. And you want to know what makes that so brilliant as well? They're a cost-efficient unit. Lombos, as you can see, only 90 resources. Slightly high by normal Pew Pew standards, but compared to these lads, 120 resources per unit. You just get counted, though. You can't even build them quicker. It's 15 seconds on Lombos compared to 22 on the Horse Archers. So everything right now does favor Puke. And this is where Core has to make a choice. Am I teching up or am I fighting? If I'm fighting, I need a new unit type. Look at the gold. Maybe you just consider teching up at this stage. You do need to sort your food first with the farms. You still have got some pocket ecos you can play onto, especially with the keep stabilizing around the sacred sites. The boar is a pristine play Core is missing out on. And it is going to be the stable, so this will be a switch up, and it should be hard into Horseman. Knights feels too baity here. You know, you've already seen the willingness from Puke to push Crossbowmen. You just need something that can gap close quickly. The cool thing about Horsemen here is they can wrap around the back and block off the retreat much easier of these Lombos. And the other reason is because with crossbow transition coming out and the possibility for crossbows, if you do heavily invest in a knight, so you have to upgrade first, you just more easily countered because Puke has already shown a willingness to push crossbows. Let's see if Core goes for it soon. He's not pushing for it yet, just simply because he can't afford it. These Horse Archers are notably cheaper than the Horsemen. It's 100 food compared to just 80. On the back of this as well, Core needs more food, which means he needs to spend all of his wood on the farms instead of spending it on the Horsemen right now. Torches whipped out to try and burn down the sneaky wooden palisade, wooden fortress as well on the backside. And after that, Puke will have control to move out to the north side. Not ready for the deer stats, but small wood lines, gold up in the north side as well, and a sacred site that can always be guarded on to block that as a win condition. Speaking of win conditions, this is not it. This is not how you win this fight. Core realizes it quickly, tries to back away, but a bad trade on the exit. Several Horse Archers going down, and that's the fear you have to worry about here. Puke, you know, he was taking even, actually I'd say 60% favored, you know, 60-40 favored trades in the mid off of these Lombos. With the attack speed buffer, it's more like a 80-20 trade. It's not even close. Looks like he'll finally get rid of the lumber camp. Needs the room now. Puke. Did that get spotted? Ooh. Okay, Core saw the stable, so he should know what's coming next. I don't know if he was looking at it in the moment, but if he spots this stable at the backside, it should look pretty sus to him. And he should realize that this is going to be a transition by Puke into Knights. Could we go for more Horsemen, but I think Knights are actually good to move forward here. We'll have to see. Okay, it's getting stuck to Horsemen. Fair enough. Like, both work well. I think Knights is nice for what you're expecting to come next. But Horsemen makes sense because, remember, like, while we have God Vision and we can see that the intent is now for the heavy cavalry to come up for Core, like, he doesn't know this. And by the way, remember what I said? I didn't want to see heavy cavalry here. I want to see Horsemen. I think this is going to be a lot more difficult to maneuver. I'm surprised that Core committed to this choice when he saw crossbows were being built by Puke. Now, we can see that Puke didn't build many more, but that info was limited to Core. Now control the map's going to be limited to defensive keep going up. Speaking of things going up, that's exactly what Puke's going to do. As expected, you get the space as the English and you make your way up into your prime time show. Imperial on the table for one. Core, none. Hasn't got a way of reaching it right now. And you can really see where the resources went instead. Like double keep, all the walls, the wooden fortresses. These details add up. Now march out, trying to block the interception here. We'll get the keep up in the end. Horsemen do envelop though. And the Horse Archers are in trouble. Even with the assistance of the keep, he's going to lose the entire army here. And that's bad news when Core gets that notification as well. Puke, now an Imperial, about to also take a good trade in this fight. Backs away in the end. But now the pursuit looks lofty and very cumbersome here. So the Lombos can start to stand their ground. New line of Horsemen coming in. Horse Archers peppering down whatever they can, but you see how quickly that front line does fall, and afterwards, your Horse Archers are going to have to fall back. Now keeping the center. Puke getting a staging ground now. This is a really cool play out of Puke because once you have this set up, you've already got network outposts as well, giving good vision, buffering as well, and then you can start to move in with the siege afterwards. But the keep does have to go up, and this is a small amount of villages for this as well. Nice cancel. Puke realizes it's too much in the end. This is the type of play you make with 10 to 15 villages. Any less, and you're begging to be killed, and that's exactly what happens here. Puke forced to retreat away again. Just a few Knights renewing the front line, and that's enough to buffer him away. Core getting the space he needs, and he needs this space, folks, because with it, he can think about going to imp himself, or now he can look to start diving in the base, because off the back of all this, yes, Pute does have a tech up advantage. Those eco lines are getting thin. Gold is limited, and also my patience is limited with this lack of mining camp. But behind it, more importantly, the wood is limited. And after that, you have to move out into dangerous territory, especially with the way that Core is now posturing. Defensive keep this time will go up successfully for Pute. Was this intentional with the so they can't all be sniped? I think it was just pathfinding as they were on the location. Core not ready for Imperial yet. Still setting up those farms. Should be prepped for it soon though. Is also extracting gold on the north side, so limited resources in reserve for Pute. Good news is when you play English, you don't really care because, oh look, that's where my gold comes from. That's all right, the enclosure is now online, means he's gonna have plenty of food and gold coming in the following minutes when he moves up to 60 farms total. In conjunction with that, Pute might have an ability to reach him with more of these keeps. Keeps are very beneficial. This first one that's defensive, look what it's setting up for. Network of Citadels. You need to build at least one to research this. Then there's a keep crawl that can occur. And the cool thing about playing the English is when you commit to a keep crawl, it seems inefficient because, you know, you're only gaining a little bit of ground for 800 stone. But realistically, alongside that, you're gaining forward siege workshops that can't easily be killed. And that's important for the English because if there's one area they suffer in, one area they are incredibly weak in, it's siege. At least the build-up. When they get to their critical mass, they are scary. We've seen what Wingard Palace can do when you've got 10 plus trebs firing into the enemy, which, by the way, needs to stack them up. There we go. But getting there is always the problem. If you rely upon Wingard Palace, it takes over a minute. If you want to get siege quicker, you have to build siege workshops. And if there was one building in the game, I'd have to say that the English build the least of. Obviously discounting, I'd say, like University and the Cathedral of St. Thomas, for obvious reasons. It's probably siege workshops. But to his credit, Pute did at least get one, and the reason you get one is because you need it to get the researchers. Is going to the geometry straight away. Understanding that there's a lot of defenses that you're going to have to dent. Shattering projectiles could also be a mighty tasty proposition in the coming minutes. And this is the funny thing about playing English. You know, you're also able to be more efficient outside the Wingard Palace, like where most people are paying for bombards, which is quite a lofty sum. At 1,000, you're only paying 750 if you counterweight trebuchets. And the counterweight trebuchets are a lot safer, a lot harder to breach, a lot harder to access. And also, due to the attack speed buffer you get with the network of citadels, comparative attack speeds of the bombards. Now another comparison arises as both of them are going to finally be up in Imp. Both looking to push PopCap, Core not there yet, and now switching over the Streltsy, but this is a dangerous proposition. The good thing about the way that Core has done this is that he has a standing army. I've seen it too often. Roost players that rush Imperial and instantly switch Streltsy but don't have a defense force die. But Core, with about 15 Knights and 25 Horse Archers in the field, has got that buffer. Has got a way of protecting himself, and it means that Pute can't instantly move in for a hard siege and deny his opponent his Imperial Age. Walls finally spotted are going to be brought down as Pute doesn't like the disorderly nature of his base here. Wants to bring it all under the fold. He'll get access to raid points as well, and Core is trying to mirror the movements right now. Core's goal is to just delay. Delay now. Doesn't feel good against the English, but your timing for an attack is around like the 34, 35 minute mark. My concern, however, is how big the economy of Pute's going to be at that stage. Doesn't feel good to have to make that delay, but you need to build up bulk Streltsy to even remotely dream of a good trade. Clash here. Horsemen are going to back up as the crossbows and longbows aren't in position yet, but the reinforcements have arrived. Now they can spread out a little. Villagers will back up. Cool. We'll have to back up because of it. He has no soft point targets to focus on anymore. Walls are going to go up, and Pute rubs the fact that he knows how to use stone in the face of Core. And this cannot be easy for Core to swallow. Oh, no, no. This is a man who loves his static defenses, his towers, his walls. But his walls look mighty pathetic up against these Leviathans. Can I just highlight, by the way, with that as an upcoming change, Streltsy are going to be ridiculous. I don't feel like anyone's necessarily highlight that possibility yet, but remember that they're changing the Rus Imperial Age landmark. They're making it so that if you go for the defensive keep, then you'll actually, I believe the defensive keep's going to also give the option to let you build stone walls, if I remember correctly. That's going to change a lot, because the Streltsy, one of the big weaknesses is that they just don't have range. You know, they're very powerful units, but the downside is meant to be their 4-tower range. You start building aggressive walls and go up to 6-tower range, holy shamoke. That's going to be spooky. I do like that change, by the way. Like, right now, high armory is just an obvious choice. The only time I ever see someone go for the alternative is when they're being hard pressed and they're at risk of losing the game. If you're not being dove, you don't build the other. Even then, like, if you have enough for a keep, you just build a keep instead to deal with the diving. The high armory is just too efficient in the late game. At that discount of 20%, good lordy. Yes, I hope we get to see the Spellskyer now. Rather not now, but in the future. In the meantime, what we're going to see is a lot of Mangonels being targeted out, and they were needed. The pushback from Puke is effective, gets rid of the siege that's holding him back right now. We'll retreat for the moment, mainly transition to crossbows. We'll need to switch over to longbows to deal with the Streltsy. Crossbows are still going to be needed to deal with the Knights, or you're going to need to switch into Knights yourself. He's back up. A lot of ground being gained, though. Core relentless in his pursuit here. And he upgraded both the Knights and the Horsemen, so plenty of effective HP on his front line here to keep pushing back. But after they're gone, you will have to fall back. And when you do, keep in mind the Streltsy in the formation shift to the backside and move the slowest, so they are going to be susceptible to fire on the retreat. This is where things get a little bit dicey for Core. You need good Mangonel control, because without that, Lombo Clump is going to occur, and Lombo Clump ends the Streltsy before their dream can begin. If you're wondering why, just look at this unit. 12 damage. As you can also see, 7-tower range. The attack speed buff are due to the network of castles. It's just too much to ask. Like, even with double time, it's very difficult. Yes, you can get in range, but like if you're not careful, you find yourself out of position. This is why not as many people use double time as you'd think in these type of matchups, is because if you double time in, you can't double time out. A lot of players opt to keep double time as a retreat option because Streltsy are such a costly and slow unit to produce. But now, he has produced enough. Up to 17. Front line is being absolutely blitzed here, and after that, you have to back away. Outpost starting to full Core, staking his claim in the center here, refusing to retreat all the way back behind his keep anymore. Frontline is once again dead. Streltsy are going to find themselves at a mismatch here. Crossbows and longbows with the attack speed, able to trade out well. There's just too many of them to deal with. Core, this second line of horsemen feels a little bit too late. Streltsy are going to be hitting the dirt. Only 6 remaining. Meanwhile, on the north side, you can see Core now just yoinking resources from behind Puke's lines, trying to delay him, drain him, make sure that he doesn't have what he needs to keep the war machine going, because wood is going to be the critical resource in the coming minutes. It's not just about the horseman push on both sides. It's about the longbow option. Cool. Once again, forfeit a little bit of ground. Keep is going to still be there to stabilize him. And remember, behind this, Puke only has 2 trebuchets right now, so not exactly what you call a quick siege here. Looks like the gold is still well protected. He just doesn't want it yet. Did have to pull back because Puke was able to sneak an outpost in this area. Income numbers still looking good for Core, though. Gold is competitive. This is the cool thing about the way Core played this, by the way, is because he got his hands on all the relics and has 2 sacred sites for the generation, the way he's built his base, you somewhat compete with the English enclosures. Like, if Puke wanted to hard commit fully into just farms, yeah, he beat you in gold. But you still be pretty competitive. And also keep in mind off the back of that, because he got 5, Tithe Barns is a good option. And Core, if you don't get Tithe Barns soon, I'm going to beat you with a stick. What is this? This is sin. At least he's putting the gold to a good cause elsewhere. Streltsy line re-established up to 18, quickly shrinking though. Crossbows helping to get rid of that front line. Second wave coming in as Core looks to push back. Man at arms, an ambitious choice coming out from Puke, but of course that's just the result of the Wingard Palace. He isn't building into them, don't be baited. Once again backing up, the trebuchets target out Core. Beautiful maneuver here. Important maneuver as well. He strikes deep, and he will take down all 3 trebuchets, denying Pute a way of escalating the siege. Behind that, Streltsy might once again get wiped, but he doesn't have to worry about a breach into his base, because the problem for Pute is the win condition is these trebuchets. Once you get up to like 6, 7, or 8, with shattering projectiles especially, you can take out the Streltsy and you can take out the buildings. Without that, your hand is heavily discounted. You don't have a way of breaking in still. However, kicking the can down the line is proving a problem. Look at the resources still. The good news for Core is on that wood. The bad news is in the food and gold. Not really building up surplus at all. You know what would help build up food? There we go. Yep, now we're on. Hold on a sec. No, because if he researches it, I can't flame him. Let me just cancel that. Core, come on. Where's the Tithe Barns? Oh, God. Okay. There it is. Just half a minute away. An important detail. I'm glad he did go back for it. I was getting worried there. I still love that stupid, like, pointless UI bug. Like, wait, why are you flaming Core? He already got Tithe Barn. No, he did. God, I'm like a bug hunter here. I'm always complaining about bugs. One day I'm going to meet a Relic developer. They're going to be like, we know about you. But they're going to say it in, like, a disdainful way that they hate me. And I don't blame them. Pute. A switch up. Knights now. An interesting choice because, you know, I don't know if Pute's really clocked this yet, but Gun just as good at killing unit wearing Finn tin hat than it is at killing unit not wearing Finn tin hat. Guns aren't really biased like that. They'll penetrate. They can do a lot of damage. Front line's now spreading out. Core will have to back away. Second wave of Streltsy coming in. He can't back away too fast, though. The Lombo switchover is the big detail here. Pute, that's what we want to see. Wait, has he not got volley, though? Okay, he already used the volley early on, so he's going to have to back away. Front line is giving up fast here. Streltsy slow to approach. Bombard's now in the field, and this is where you can start to snipe down everything and anything. It's not just about the Streltsy anymore. Core has changed the dynamics of play. Pute will have to adjust to this. Lombo clump about to be exposed. An equal 50-50 ratio of both crossbows and lombos, but no way standing up against what's coming their way, as the Bombards are just long-range snipers at this stage. 50 cal wielding medieval warriors. As they will make their way through that backline, Core is going to have to retreat. After this pushback, if you just built up 5 trebuchets, you need to be very careful, my friend. You don't want to insta-lose them again. You might if you're not careful, though. You know, double time rushing is still a possibility with just a few of these lads if Core feels like it. But instead, he doesn't need to do any of these cheesy strategies. He can just keep going forward. Slowly but surely, winning the race. As this race in, this hard pull under 1 or 2 Bombards is going to cost Pute a lot, and he's not going to get much for it. As the Bombards, they still aren't dying fast. They're still alive. They survived it all. He can't get through them at all. And this is the difference. This is the power of the Streltsy at this point in the game. It's giving good trades over, because while Core ends up with surplus horsemen that can dive in and snipe, Pute doesn't do the same. He can't do the same. He's trying to right now, ignoring the Streltsy, diving past them and just falling victim every time. Just to get 1 or 2 siege a piece doesn't feel like it's a good trade. And the Mangoes also now countering out the ranged battalion. The last of them falling, all of them gone. Now it's just horsemen pushing into their death. They'll realize that they took the blinders off. The horsemen, the horsies themselves, they saw what's ahead of them and they don't want a piece of it. And a mana up. What am I witnessing? I'm witnessing heresy, folks. That's what I'm witnessing. What did I just say? You put a giant tin can on something, it's not going to make it any more defendable against gunfire. Not in this situation, anyway. Because the issue when you put a giant tin can on someone is it's a little bit heavy. It weighs you down, moves a little bit slow. And admittedly, for the moment, Core will be moving slow. He needs to renew the Streltsy push. But once he does, this switchover favors him, not Pute. Even before the switchover, it's still favoring him. The Horsemen are just doing so much work here. This is pretty powerful what Core has done here, actually. Let's Let's highlight for a moment like what he's achieved and why it's working. Look at the Elite Horsemen here. Look at the ones here. Noticing a big difference there, aren't you? Someone's got bigger boys. It's the Boy's Fortitude. Boy's Fortitude is like a highly underrated tech for the Roost in the late game. They'll get it. But the way they use it, like, it doesn't really get talked about why it's so potent. Every single one of his horsemen are more cost efficient. They are more efficient in terms of tanking. The reason this is important is what's the biggest limiting factor at this stage in the game? It's not resources anymore. It's pop cap. If you can make each of your pop cap last longer in a fight, you will benefit. You will reap the rewards, especially considering you're the front line protecting the premium unit. You're the cheap unit that Core can afford. It's food and wood. Gold is a limiting factor. If he can keep the Bombards and Streltsy alive for longer because his front line is stronger in terms of raw HP, he will gain more ground. It's actually pretty crafty. Think how many people in this situation would have just pushed more Knights because they can see their opponent doesn't have that much armor pierce left because he pushed into Lombos. Nope. Whether you're pushing Lombos or Crossbows, it doesn't matter to Core. At the end of the day, while these units do damage and it does add up into the overall power of your fight, the real power is in their ability to take a hit. Cute. I'm going to say something that will sound weird to people, and I understand why, but hand cannon is. Crossbows, like, what are they achieving that hand cannoneers don't? You've got so much gold to work with. Food and gold. And admittedly, like, in a fight between Streltsy and hand cannoneers, as long as the Streltsy is standing still for a long term, yeah, they'll win. But they don't get to stand still for a long term. And you have the attack speed in the meantime. And also you have a strong front line ahead of you. I think the hand cannoneers is what is missing for Pute right now. And if they got into them, they would gain a lot of ground fast. In fact, they might gain some ground now because Core is not fighting with the Streltsy. Hello? Did I say you could take a break? Yeah, definitely I want to kick out after this one. This has to be a little bit stressing. Streltsy aren't fighting. Bombard's going to be targeted down. And it looks like they might all be torched down. Final volley comes out. 7 HP remaining. Bombard will survive. And the Trebs need to get out of here. Pute, he got a little bit too close to the sun. And he might get burnt for it. Core. Does he see him? He has full vision over this. He can rush in. In fact, if he dives past, he'll get all 3 of the trebuchets, but instead he'll target out the crossbows because behind that, sure, you're letting the trebs escape, but because you take on the military units instead, afterwards you can gain more ground. And I like this. Core, now that he's feeling stronger, now that he's stabilized, he's starting to keep at 200 pop cap, he realizes the goal isn't to kill off the trebs to stop the siege. He doesn't need to delay the game that same way anymore. He needs to kill the military. Flood on in. Shattering projectiles, nice hit. Streltsy having to start sidestepping here. Still stabilized, but this is one of the frustrations. I like that Pute has identified this. When you get shattering projectiles and you start hitting into the Streltsy have to move a lot more. Otherwise, they die. And the reason that's a big deal is because they don't get their static deployment bonus, which gives them increased attack speed and damage here. And I like that. That's actually a really cool switch up by Pute. And Pute, it is shattering projectiles, as you can see, so you're almost always guaranteed to take out one. If you micro well, you can target several different ones, in fact. Ground gained. Pute now with the switch over to Man-at-Arms. An interesting choice here, but wood is a limiting factor. That's why they're making this choice. I would still love to see the hand cannoneers behind this. Hand cannoneers would add in so much to your impact. It's still just crossbows for the moment. In some ways, a more cost-efficient solution, but if you're always pop-capped, you don't need cost efficiency in terms of resource. You need cost efficiency in terms of pop cap. So you need to spend premium to get the best for each slot. But now crossbows with the attack speed are still going to be good enough to keep approaching here. And Core, look at all the stone he's got. He pulls a lot of villages for the repairs, but he could also drop a keep here if he wants to gain some ground. And I actually think that's what is missing right now for Core. Every time he pushes forward, he's not pulling villages behind it to get a keep up. And admittedly, there is a reason behind this. Look at the loss of food and gold. Core keeps stockpiling enough to replace what he loses, but he's never building up the stockpile the same way Pute has been. And it's because of the cost efficiency of units. Yes, the horsemen are pop cap efficient because of their health as a tank. They're not resource efficient though. Compare it to the Man-at-Arms. You can see there's a health difference, but there's a heavy armor difference as well. 9 melee and 10 ranged compared to just 3 melee and 5 ranged. And also they do more damage. Even more damage to the attack speed buff. I think this is a pretty crafty switch up that works really well against what Core has now. Because what Pute's done is he's changed his approach. It's no longer about a quick assault that dives in and gains like half the map in one push. It's a slow assault. And it should be a slow assault. You're the English, for God's sake. You don't rush your opponent. You take your time. Because you can. Because the late game is so beautifully generous to you. Oh, look at these beautiful buggers on the front line. Repairs will come out, and after that, new outpost. Outpost that will extend the attack speed buffer. Attack speed buffer that is difficult for Core to answer. Core needs a change in the plans here. Could go for a flank attack, but time's running out for that because Pute's identified that's a possibility. He wants to carve up the territory. Stone walls now going up. Another mockery for the Rus as they cannot build them themselves. And there is a small raid in. Knights, they dove in the back. You crafty devil. 3 stables on the backside. And the army's completely out of position. A few crossbows being built to deal with this. But it's going to force some idle time. It's going to start to poke and prod. But it's poking and prodding in the wrong place. The issue right now for Pute is not food. It's wood. Would you believe that Pute only has 1 person on wood? That's going to be an issue. That's another reason this keep can help him a lot. It's only small clusters, but he needs anything and everything he can get right now because Core will not run out in that department. Look what he's still got behind his base. He extracted your resources before his own. So yes, he's done with the front one. He's only got small clusters, but he still has a big fat reserve behind all of this. In the meantime, he's taking your small reserves. Horseman. Core on the move again. No front line to protect here, really. Pute only having about 10 man-at-arms. That's because there's a distraction. The wraparound. Horsemen are in. Springel's being traded out. And that could lead straight into the Streltsy. And although Pute has to pull back the main forces, look how much of the cavalry's already dead. And look how much siege is gone. Mangonels will at least survive, but now you don't have the anti-siege. That means the trebuchets can get back in play. They're chunky, helpful, able to just grunt the fire from that initial wave of shots out of the Springles. The crossbows need to back up because the Mangos are going to be a problem, but without a sustained front line, Core is going to be in a little bit of a difficult position here. Keeps now going up. Doesn't want to offer up flank attacks. All the while, he's going to be going for the flank attacks himself. Limited wood, but interesting choice to go into a few horsemen. Just looking to idle eco wherever he can because any attention drawn away here, any military force that has to come to respond to this is less pop cap in the main fight. Trebs, whoopsie. Oh my god, that Sharon projectiles damage is ridiculous. Half HP on like 4 horsemen straight away like that. That's why he has to fight. Core doesn't have a choice. If he stands back and just takes these shots, he eventually loses the army anyway. So he just needs to go in. Because long-range combat is what Pute wants. But getting up, getting in, and getting dirty is not what Core is going to fail in. That's where he can be strong. Streltsy short-ranged, but outmatched, have to back away. The staggered formation on point out of Pute, and Pute looking nigh on unassailable right now. Mango's going to be a throwaway. And it's just the front lines. They don't hold long enough. And we're reaching that point in the game. As I said, Core, he has to get his hands dirty. He has to just spill blood 24/7 because if you ever slow down, not only does Pute build up surplus quicker than you, it's going to build up more trebs. And you just saw the damage those trebs can do to the units. Think about the damage they'll do to the buildings as well. If this keep goes down, Pute can transition to horsemen, and then the English flood can begin. And when I say the English flood, I'm talking about the type that took out the No Man's Sky studio. You know, you're not going to be out of the office for the day. You're going to be set back a few months because the raid will be deep and the hit to your economy hard because there's plenty of farms at the backside to target here. I delete a few units here. Pute switching up. Once more trebs. My favorite part is he just... My favorite part is he just deleted about 10 man-at-arms and he's queued 15 more. That's how disposable fat people are in England, I guess. I don't know what else to tell you. These chunky man-at-arms he doesn't care for. He'll just suboptimally delete a dozen of them just to make sure he gets an additional trebuchet out on the cheap. Things have slowed down. What do we say about slowdowns? Slowdowns are bad for the Rus. Sheep, good in the early game to relate to that noise, but outright everything just bad now. And gonna get worse. Trebs, time to open fire. Long time to pack out, but once they are packed out, watch what they can do. They can pack a wallop here. Heavy damage in, Streltsy down. Third just gone like that. More than a third worth of HP missing as well. Trebs going to back up, but that's the threat that looms. That's the danger you face. And that danger will become more lethal as the game goes on. When Puke gets up to 10 trebuchets, make no mistake, that Streltsy line is instantly gone at the beginning. And if the Streltsy are gone, you have nothing to fight with because the Horsemen cannot cut it. Remember what we've said. This is RPG format. Tank, warrior, DPS, ranger. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how often we can forget how powerful Shattering Projectiles is. Like, it once upon a time was a meme. It was terrible. It done nothing. But it got slightly adjusted. Mangonels also got nerfed, and all of a sudden, like, they're more comparative. They have this beautiful potency to them. Now, their weakness is this. The setup time is a mile long in how long that deploy bar is. It's not quick. But once you are deployed, rapido! All because of the attack speed. Only 8.42 seconds between attacks, which is pretty phenomenal for a 16 tower range unit. And that's the key issue here. 16 tower range, you have 12.5. Good luck getting close. Frontline staggered. Trebs target out. One will be sniped. Nice maneuver there. Port backs up for the moment. He needs to snipe more than this. Cannon in placement. Puke's got it there. That can do some heavy damage to the front line here. Treb's still going to wheel back, which means the Streltsy are going to be unleashed like the beast they are. Horsemen, in the meantime, trying to wrap around. Only a few of them left, though. Maybe can torch one or two of the Springles, but most are going to be falling. Streltsy redirect their fire. Clean it up. Behind this, though, the crossbows are stabilizing. More villagers at the front line. Puke thinking about going for a keep drop, or at least getting the repairs out. He's playing for the straggler trees. He needs it because Puke has hit 0 wood income. We highlighted it before. We knew it was going to be a problem. And that's why he was targeting the keep on the north side. He started work on this wood line, but you couldn't get any deeper because of the static defense. And that's why Core moved. That's why Core dove like that with the Springles, because he needed to put a stop to the siege. And now that he has, it's going to slow down things for Puke. Especially in this critical department. We've seen what the counterweight trebuchets can do, but we're seeing how he's suffering here. You either wait a minute and 15 seconds per, or you spend 750 resources, 2/3 of which is going to be wood, on a counterweight trebuchet. And we are about an hour into this game. Wood is the true gold. For both sides, really. Core still needs some of it. You know, Horsemen, the Springles, the Siege, even with discounts, it still costs a lot. And that's why he's been blessed by this back wood line. That's why I've just got to really applaud the way Core has played this game. He played proxy. He played extension. He played for pocket wood lines first. And then, even when they're all gone, even if he gets pushed back into his base, look at this vast quantity of wood in reserve. This is how you play the map on a macro level. And it's phenomenal to watch. And although Puke looks like he has very broken levels of economy, there's one thing the late game English cannot do. They can't fabricate wood. Core, on the other hand, playing the Rus. They get 20% additional. And that means that every small cluster of trees has gone a lot further for him than it has for Puke. Speaking of that wood, there's a cluster of wooded structures at the backside. The Trebs starting to quick siege in. Will quickly be pushed back. Those Springles wheeling out, trying to get in range. They're quick, hot on the pursuit. One tower range versus the 0.72. Need to be careful. Horsemen blocking off an assault. A counter snipe is not going to occur. Trebs now being targeted out. They're going for the deploy. The heavy hit can be good here. Trebs, Shattering Projectiles in. But they all target the same Streltsy. Not a good exchange. And now Core looking to gain heavy ground and will be able to do so. Crossbow are not able to hold on their own. No Horsemen to defend them. Core breaking out. Push back hard. Puke surrendering a lot of ground. Last of the Knights and Horsemen starting to fall. Streltsy still pushing forward though. Still gaining some ground. Gaining a foothold. New wave coming in. Puke with a double down. Melee mosh pit is incoming. Man-at-Arms and Horsemen rally to the front line, and Core has to go back inside his base. Core. His military's looking baby level now. This is a problem for him. He lost most of the Sprinklers in that engagement. This could be it. Core knew he had to make a move soon. When you see 5+ trebuchets, you can't wait any longer. But because his hand was forced, because he had to rush, all of a sudden it's an English rush into his base. Keepers down. More outposts going up. The slow but methodical English. They won't be the quickest to delete your base, but it'll be the most decisive. And now they do have access to do exactly that. Think about the layout here. Core. Almost a line of landmarks here. This was him trying to connect 5, but someone stopped him from even connecting 4. And the problem with this is that that attack speed buff, if you don't constantly fight now, Pew is going to snipe landmarks. These are trebuchets. They don't screw around. And Core, he's had enough of this. This is his last maneuver, his last hope. And if the Rus God of Horse wills it, it will work. Mass, Horsemen, and Flood. If this doesn't work, nothing will. Bombard's starting to peek out as well for Core. Starting to bait Pew in a little. And Pew doesn't see this yet. Pew doesn't know. Is it going to be the landmark sniper? Is it going to be the fight? Can he actually landmark snipe quicker than these trebs would be able to? I don't think he can. He needs to get rid of the trebuchets before he makes his way through. And here he goes. Gat closing through, wrapping around. He wants to just flood past them. Let's see if it works. Going past them for the moment. Pew trying to body block him out, but the Man-at-Arms aren't even fighting. They're not even doing damage right now. Core is going. He's making his way in. He's through. There's no block coming out. Pew. He says, wait, where are you going? We were scheduled for a fight. That fight isn't going to be allowed, though. And Pew played with his prey. He didn't even target out the landmarks. Core says, the fight is in your base. I'll see you there in 50. 50 seconds for me, 50 minutes for you, Fatso. He's in. It's a torch party. It's a rave party for the Rus Core. Can he do it? Abbey of Kings down. 3 left, and one of them is very squishy. King's Palace. New troops blocking him out, body blocking him from getting through, but primary town center target, repair crew coming out. Pew trying to keep the dream alive. King's Pass, past the halfway mark. Wingard Pass has also been spotted. All the passes, nowhere for your king to stay anymore. His home is gone. The town center's gonna be gone. The Abbey of Kings has not been rebuilt. And the Wingard Palace has enough on it. Core, you magnificent son of a gun. You've done it. You've beaten English in the late game. Imperial is strong, but my God, are they slow. But this was a quick way to close it out. Woo-wee! Late game comes. English trying to slow siege you down. Last move is to strike at their core. Of course, Core would know how to do that.